too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop. She don't miss nothing, got the scoop on lock. Spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop. Still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop.
Hey guys, how is everybody doing, y'all? I am feeling so good. I went to the doctor today and I'm down 10 pounds. City girls up. Because look, y'all know City Boys is down because Simon lost. But anywho, y'all, let's get into this testimony. Like I told y'all originally, I have we're gonna listen to Simon's testimony and also an expert witness. Now, after that, I'm gonna upload Porsha's testimony, which is the longest. Porsha's testimony is about an hour. So I'm just gonna upload the entire thing. I try to keep the video short, but because her testimony is longer, I'm just gonna upload it as it is. Now, what we're getting into Simon's testimony and and we're talking about the Porsha Williams Real Housewives of Atlanta divorce hearing that occurred a few days ago down here in Fulton County. Now, this is Simon's testimony, but I believe Simon came back. So this is going to be Simon's first testimony. Then later on today, I'm going to upload Porsha's testimony, and I believe Simon testifies again, and then you guys are going to listen to the judge. But when I do upload the judge's decision, you're going to notice that it's just abruptly cut off because, as I mentioned, court started at 9:30 a.m. By 7:15 p.m., the entire computers and everything just start updating and everybody disappeared from the hearing. So I'm going to bring it up now, y'all, and I'm just going to let it play. I was there. I know what happened, but like I said, I wanted you guys to actually see how everything went down. Now, I'm going to get it up now.
I've known of Ms. Williams probably up to probably 10 years as a business owner, owning restaurants, and the show has filmed in a couple of my restaurants over the time period. But we'd never met each other personally.
When you say the show, you mean the Real Housewives of Atlanta?
That's correct.
And you actually appeared on the Real Housewives of Atlanta television show before you met Ms. Williams?
That's correct.
How many times did you appear on it before you even met her?
Probably about twice. Probably I appeared on 2 episodes in 1 season, where my previous wife was considered a friend of the show.
Okay. And then, when did Ms. Williams stop being on the show?
I believe after season 13.
Was it after you married or before you married?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Was she still on the show when you married her, or had she quit the show?
She had quit the show.
Okay, and after you married her, did you and she do a TV show together?
Yes, we did.
And that was not the Real Housewives of Atlanta. That was a show you and she were on together, correct?
That's correct.
And
it was her show.
And did she earn money from that show?
Yes, she did.
And you supported her doing that, correct?
Sure I did. I sure did.
And it was after that show ended that she rejoined the Real Housewives of Atlanta, correct?
Please repeat the question.
She rejoined the Real Housewives of Atlanta after that show had been filmed and aired, correct?
I'm gonna object to the lack of specific. I'm gonna object to ambiguity and vagueness as far as time and scope of the question in order for the witness to be able to properly answer. As far as after the show, we need times and dates, or not dates, excuse me, not time, but dates, so the witness can follow the question.
If you can answer it, when did he, after that show, she started back on the Real Housewives, correct?
Objection.
So Ms. Ferry had an objection. Mr. Kessler rephrased. Ms. Ferry, what's your objection now to the question?
I guess it's the same as far as the question. It's not narrow as to.
I'm going to overrule the objection after the show is specific enough. So.
I guess he needs to lay the foundation if he knows when the show ended. I think that's what I'm getting at, Judge. So I can even follow the testimony, and the witness knows how to answer.
Your Honor, I'm just trying to establish that they got married, he did a TV show with her, and then she rejoined the Real Housewives.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I think it's fine.
Is that basically what happened, Mr. Guobadia, that you got married, you did this show, and then she joined the Real Housewives sometime after you filmed that show?
No, she was never on any show while we were married.
Okay, so when did she start the Real Housewives again? And you're still married now, right?
She started the housewife, correct, after she filed for a divorce for dissolution.
They started filming after she filed for divorce, but you knew
That's correct.
But before she filed for divorce, you knew she had signed up for the Real Housewives, correct?
She was talking to them. She's been talking to them over the course of the marriage. When she signed for it, I don't know when she signed for it.
Okay. And you were probably going to be on it as well, right? She talked to you about that.
We never discussed it.
But it didn't come out of the blue. You knew that it was something that she'd been considering.
I disagree with that analogy. She's never expressed that she wanted to go back on the show. She was spoken to about the show over the course of our being together before we got married and after we got married. The details of it, I was never privy to.
Okay, but your lawyer made it in an opening and in previous hearings that you signed this prenuptial agreement because she was going to stop working and be dependent on you.
That's correct.
But that wasn't the case because you all did a show together as husband and wife that earned her money, correct?
I don't know what she earned when she did her show. I literally just met her, and a week or two later, asked to be on the show, and I was just being a supportive boyfriend at the time.
Okay. Did she not do a show with you while you were married?
No.
Okay. All right. Your lawyer said, I think I've covered that. I'm going to shift, just for clarity, I'm going to shift forward to change the circumstances. Your lawyer said that your company has had a change. In November of 2024, isn't it true you terminated all employees of 𝐬𝐮𝐞𝐭?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Before you were detained by ICE, you terminated all employees of 𝐬𝐮𝐞𝐭, correct?
I did not terminate them to cease business. I terminated them because they were ineffective.
Okay. So it had nothing to do with your immigration status or ICE, correct?
No.
And your domestic relations financial affidavit that you submitted reflected that your assets were as set forth on the schedules for the prenuptial agreement, correct?
Please repeat the question.
I'm going to show you you remember signing a domestic relations financial affidavit?
Yes.
And you remember there was a list for assets? I'm going to show it to you and we'll tender it again. See if you can identify this, what we marked Exhibit 36 for the plaintiff. Does that appear to be the document you submitted, showing net income of $250,000? Yes.
Yes.
And under assets, let's go up to assets.
I'm sorry, counsel, can you just, can you show the signature page? I'm sorry, just so I can see it.
Be glad.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Let's go to the asset page. Under assets, you listed the house. The houses, scroll down if you would, Ms. Hayward James. Oh. Okay. Do you see under bank accounts and savings, and as it says Exhibit A2 of the prenup? In other words, you defer to the exhibits on your prenuptial agreement in response to these questions about your assets, your bank accounts, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Scroll up, Asha. All right, scroll down. And your total gross income at the time that you reported was $253,632 per month, correct?
Correct.
And that was about the same as what you had been earning at the time you married Ms. Williams, correct?
I don't believe so. I mean, if it was derived from a reference to the exhibit of what our financials were at the time we, I
think you froze, Judge. I think we missed something because
Remind
you froze.
Something happened to where we didn't hear your response.
oh, I'm sorry, a call was coming in. What I said was, to the extent that those numbers came from a reference to the prenup.
Okay. Were you earning, at the time you completed this, were you earning about the same as you earned when you married her a year before? Or 2 years before, I'm sorry.
Can you please show me the signature page when this was prepared?
Sure. It seems to say August 20th, 2024.
Okay, I earned significantly more than that. Those numbers were derived from what I was earning at the time this domestic financial was completed.
So
it was not based on, I wasn't earning the same as at the time we signed the prenup agreement. It's not the same amount.
So is this less or more than you were earning at the time you signed the prenuptial agreement?
I'm earning less now.
In August 2024, the $260,000 a month that you put on there, was that more than you were earning at the time of the divorce? I mean, of the marriage, or less?
Less.
How much less?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. And you never updated this domestic relations financial affidavit, did you? You didn't do another one?
I don't understand the question.
This is the last domestic relations financial affidavit that you're aware that you've completed for this case, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we would tender this exhibit, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, P36, is that P36? I don't have any objection.
Okay, so tendered.
We asked your lawyers for copies of your immigration documents. Do you have any immigration documents to show why you were deported?
I don't have one on me. I was removed with no paperwork or clothing.
Okay. And there's
If
no.
you want it, you can, I'm sure we can maybe petition the United States government to provide that.
Well, we do want it, we asked your lawyers, but you don't have it.
I don't have it.
Okay. This is not the first time you've been deported from the United States, is that correct?
That's correct.
How many times have you been deported?
Actual relevance, Judge, relevance to why we're here today. I think he's asking questions about 40 years ago.
I'll talk about the relevance. She said, opposing counsel said in an opening statement, he had no idea that he would be deported, and that it was a change of circumstances that you expected he'd be here. If he's been deported before, he certainly leads one to believe that he knows there's a possibility. Of course, I can't get into it because they haven't given me the orders, they haven't answered why he was deported, I haven't seen any paperwork, so I've got to ask him. And he doesn't have any paperwork, I don't have any other way to, and it goes straight to his credibility, Your Honor. You know, like he's almost convicted of a crime. Someone's got an order for deportation because they were dishonest about their name.
Let me hear, Ms. Ferry, it was your objection.
Yes, Judge. Okay, so now I hear a different purpose for what he's asking. One, to address the conviction of a crime. I think I'll just proffer to the court. That was literally maybe 30, 35 plus years ago. And so the court is well aware about the staleness rule when it comes to convictions and such, when it comes to, so as far as the probative value when it comes to conviction of crimes has to be weighed before this court. I think what happened 30, 35 plus years ago certainly has no probative value of this court assessing the three factors that the court has to assess to determine the enforceability of the prenup. To the extent that counsel is mentioning the fact that I raised that there's been a change in circumstances and it wasn't foreseeable, you know, going back 40 years to say what was foreseeable 40 years later certainly isn't relevant. If he has questions for Mr. Guobadia regarding today and circumstances.
I've heard, I understand your points. Mr. Kessler, what's your question again?
I would respond to her objection that that's a closing argument. My question is, I want to inquire about his immigration status. He was denied immigration before, deported before.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. So I'm going to deny Ms. Ferry's objection, but this needs to be very tight because I'm really not going to have any interest in the specifics of it from 40 years ago. But I found your argument compelling enough as to whether or not he could have anticipated he'd be deported. So go ahead with your question, but I'm not going to have a whole lot of tolerance for this.
I'd like to show him Exhibit P38.
Keep in mind, there's no jury here, so this is, this stuff's only going to move me so much.
I understand. This is the new one, Tasha? Oh. I'm sorry. When you were deported, how many times have you been deported from the United States?
This will be the second time.
When was the first time?
1992.
And that was for using a different name, or why were you deported, to the best of your understanding?
I had a criminal conviction.
Of?
I think the documents
Judge, going back to relevance again from 40 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Kessler, what's the relevance to this?
That Your Honor, some people, they said it's not foreseeable that he could be taken out by ICE or deported by ICE or not allowed into the country. This is something that I would be scared if I had,
I don't know, it's time to move on.
All right. You also were denied an application for naturalization, right, sir?
That's correct.
And why were you denied the application for naturalization?
Objection relevance, Judge. That has nothing to do with why we're here today or even the scope of him not being able to run his business or operate his business and foresee that. So I would object to this line of question about his naturalization application. And Judge, here's what I'm really concerned about. I'm really concerned, in addition to the relevance, I'm really concerned that we're going into territory dealing with the federal government and ICE and his file that is not available to public proceedings, is closed door proceedings. And I think it's putting Mr. Guobadia in a very difficult position.
Here's what I'm going to do, because I've got a hard cutoff at noon, and we can take this back up when I return. But Mr. Kessler, I will say, I mean, I just from a relevance standpoint, it was fine, as she mentioned in her opening, but I'm not going to be interested in a whole lot of specifics on this. But with that, we got to take a lunch break. We'll return at 1 o'clock.
Thanks, Judge.
All rise.
Word E, Bates, B.A.
Okay, guys, so we did take a lunch break, but after lunch, we had another testimony. Now, I just put those two together because they both were a little bit short. So what you're hearing is another witness that they called. Now, Simon Guobadia did get back on the stand, I do believe, later on, but Porsha's attorney called another witness, so we can kind of listen to what the witness said.
TES Jr.
And could you spell that for the record as well, Mr. Bates?
Edward spelled E-D-W-A-R-D, E, Bates, B-A-T-E-S, Jr., J-R.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kessler.
Mr. Bates, you testified previously that this was one of the longest negotiated prenups you've seen. Do you still maintain that opinion?
Certainly nothing's changed since then.
And you reviewed this entirety of this prenuptial agreement, and I believe you said you found it to be on all squares with the law, if I recall your testimony. If I'm summarizing it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you can tell me differently.
No, absolutely correct.
You know the lawyers that drafted this prenuptial agreement?
Well, I know the lawyers that represented Mr. Guobadia. I know those lawyers. I did not know the lawyer. I do not know the lawyer that represented Ms. Williams.
Do you know those lawyers to be solid, good, experienced lawyers?
Absolutely. Top of the line, both of them.
And based on what you heard last time, what you heard today, tell us, make it simple for us, the 3 prongs that we need to prove to have a prenuptial agreement enforced.
Well, the long-time linchpin of enforceability of prenuptial agreements in Georgia has been the Scherer case, which I'm very familiar with. 3 prongs. First question is whether or not there was any fraud, duress, mistake, or was there any misrepresentation or non-disclosure of a material fact? That's number 1. Number 2, is the agreement unconscionable, which means was it unconscionable at the time it was entered? Number 3, have the facts and circumstances changed since the agreement was executed in a way that would make its enforcement unfair or unreasonable? Those are the 3 prongs.
And are there any factors that you've been made aware of through the last hearing or anything that you've heard today that would make you think that any of those prongs would exist to invalidate or make it even questionable whether this agreement should be enforced?
The only hint has been the suggestion that somehow the husband's financial condition has changed. But based on what I've heard today, that would not be sufficient to invalidate the agreement. The bar is very high in trying to set aside an agreement based on changing condition. Now, I haven't heard anything that meets that.
I don't know whether it was a seminar you've given or an argument for maybe the Supreme Court on one of the cases you've handled, but I think it was you who coined the phrase, the parties have the right to make a bad decision. Was that you?
It is, but it's not my original words. Somehow, one of the Posner cases, which is the cases were cited by Scherer, or in Scherer, and Posner was the main case in Florida that held prenuptial agreements to be valid, and the Posners had a lot of litigation Now, I don't know how many there were. There may have been 5 or 6 positive cases, but one of them, the court said, quote unquote, the freedom to contract includes the freedom to make a bad deal and enforce the contract. And I'm not saying this is a bad deal, but there's a wide latitude given to enforce an agreement.
Thank you. And you heard Ms. Berry mention to the court that we have a burden to enforce it. But if a party is claiming that facts and circumstances have changed, such to make it unfair, who has the burden to prove that?
Well, clearly the person who's trying to set aside the agreement has the burden to give a reason why the facts and circumstances have so changed. This is clearly the burden of the party trying to set it aside.
And in your experience, if you were, have you ever had an occasion to try to prove that circumstances have changed or had to defend that?
Certainly.
And in those situations, have there been valuations, expert opinions on the values of the assets or the businesses?
Yes. I mean, the essence of it is generally a financial question, and there's so much law against setting it aside that, in my opinion, you have to be very aggressive in trying to have expert opinions and whatever evidence you can bring to bear to show that it has truly been something that was not within your control. That's another one. I've lost some on that one. For example, a college professor who took retirement and said, changing condition, the court said, too bad, you lose. If you retired, and it was within the reasonable period of time for retirement, but the court enforced the agreement. That's just one little example.
I'm trying not to ask you the same questions, and I think the court remembers most of the questions you answered. In your opinion, having heard what you've heard, absent a surprise witness or somebody that testifies to anything else, but assume hypothetically, you're an expert, I can give you a hypothetical. Assume hypothetically there's no expert witness coming in or forensic accountant coming in to tell the court of the current financial condition of either side or to compare it with the financial condition at the time of signing, and that the only witnesses will be our client and the defendant testifying about that issue or about the negotiation of the prenuptial agreement. Have you heard anything that would make you think this is anything but an enforceable agreement?
No.
Okay. And I don't know, you reviewed the agreement. The final question is on attorney's fees. I know I've had cases against you and we've seen many attorney's fees provisions. This provision in particular, I want to ask you, to me seems, or how does it seem to you as far as airtight, 100%? Did you see the definitions of what would be considered objecting to the prenuptial agreement, what would qualify to require the court to order 100% of the cost be paid by the person objecting to the prenuptial agreement? Did you review those provisions?
Yes.
And describe those provisions compared to all the prenuptial agreements you've handled in your 40 years?
Actually, it's about as detailed as I have seen, frankly. I don't recall seeing any provision regarding fees that has been as precise as this, to tell you the truth.
Okay. At this point, I don't think I have any other questions for this witness. Mr. Bates, thank you for your patience and your time, and Ms. Berry may have some questions for you.
Ms. Berry?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Bates. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. What documents have you reviewed in preparation for today?
The agreement, most of it was done during the discovery hearing because there were a lot of motions, responses, and I can't say I reviewed every motion, but I've reviewed every motion and response that was, I think I did, that had been filed prior to my earlier testimony on the discovery issues, and I have reviewed the case law, in particular, Shara, the Mallon case, the Adams case, just to refresh my memory of them. I did review the court order on the discovery issue, and I think that's it.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, when you say you reviewed, I understand you said you reviewed the prenuptial agreement, you said you reviewed pleadings in this case, but you started with the disclaimer that you may not have read every single pleading, and then you reviewed some case law and the court order on discovery, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you
When I was
sorry.
talking about I didn't review every pleading. The emphasis was on the parties' positions in this case that were related to enforceability of the agreement and the discovery waiver, which, as the court ruled, it was sort of intertwined with the enforceability of the agreement.
Okay, did you see a discovery waiver in that prenuptial agreement? Or you're just repeating what you read in the court order?
No, that's what I would call it. The discovery waiver being, there was a lot of language in there about how that would be part of challenging the enforceability of the agreement, which was considered to be something that would generate fees.
Okay, since you say you reviewed the prenuptial agreement, can you point to exactly what you're referring to when you mentioned that there was a discovery waiver, or as you were talking about regarding fees and such, what exactly in the prenup or provision are you referring to?
Give me a minute.
Sure.
If you look at paragraph, it's easier to just say page 18 of the agreement, which is, it's talking about, it starts on page 17, legal fees associated with efforts to contest this agreement. And on that page, the first sentence says, both parties acknowledge and agree that a central purpose of this agreement is to avoid contested and expensive litigation, including a costly and potentially intrusive discovery process. And then on page 18, it gives specific example under Roman numeral small I, three I's. Except as specifically pertaining to issues of child custody, visitation, or child support, which issues are not dealt with in this agreement. Serving, conducting, or attempting to serve or conduct any discovery whatsoever, either upon the other party or upon or toward any third party, including but not limited to written discovery, interrogatories, requests for production of documents, requests for admission. Number 2, taking depositions of any kind, including depositions upon written questions Number 3, issuing subpoenas for the purpose of either compelling deposition testimony or the production of documents. Or 4, requesting the right to inspect any documents, things, or real property. I call that a discovery waiver.
Okay, so under that section that you mentioned, page 17, section G that you read from, I see that is titled legal fees associated with efforts to contest this agreement, correct?
Right.
Right, this isn't the subsection doesn't say discovery waiver or those buzzwords, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so under this section G, talking about legal fees, as you mentioned, it goes on to list examples of what would constitute costly litigation or expensive litigation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you read in here anywhere in the prenuptial agreement where either party indicated that they waived their right to seek any discovery to prove their claims in a divorce? Did you read that anywhere in the prenup?
It's perfectly obvious from the statement at the beginning that this was to be an agreement, this final agreement between the parties, and it would not be contested. And discovery is the first example given. And I guess hypothetically, if one wants to pay 100% of the legal fees, you could say, well, we didn't waive it. We just agreed to pay the expenses, whatever trouble we caused, we'll pay the freight. You could argue that, I guess.
Okay,
That's not what the purpose of the agreement was, not to do that. That was like a remedy for violating what the agreement says, in my mind, at least.
So, Mr. Bates, going back to my initial question, did you?
Can you guys hit the like button, please? I mean, we got 185 people in the chat, and we don't even have 100 likes. Now, if y'all don't know why we ask you to hit the like button, it's simply because when we do live videos, that is how our video gets into the algorithm, and that is just how it goes here on YouTube. So if you all can be kind to at least hit the like button. Now it is we got 193, so I should at least be at 100 likes, y'all. It's simple. All you got to do is hit the like button. It's not gonna kill you. I promise you, if you hit the like button, you will still be here in the next 10 minutes. So if y'all could just do that, I greatly would appreciate it.
Review anything else, either whether it's in preparation for today or just throughout this case, that aided you in your conclusion about the enforceability of this prenuptial agreement?
I don't think so, but I mean, to me, I would emphasize that upon reading the agreement, that's the linchpin, the whole thing is what do I think of the agreement? I thought it was very thoroughly.
That doesn't answer my question. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure I want to make sure I get a clear response to what I'm asking you, because then it's going to lead to my next question. I want clarity on what exactly you reviewed in this case to help you come to the conclusion of what you just said, that this prenup is enforceable. And so we covered that you said you reviewed the prenup agreement, you reviewed the pleadings in this case, you reviewed case law and the court order on discovery, which constitutes the pleadings. Did you review anything else other than what I just stated to help you come to the conclusion that you came to today, or even in August of 2024?
So, but again, I didn't review all pleadings.
Okay. Your expertise, Mr. Bates, is in prenuptial agreements and domestic family law, is that correct?
I would say yes.
Okay. You're not an entertainment law attorney, for example, are you?
I don't hold myself out to be one, although in my earlier career, I had some friends that were in a band and I represented them.
Okay, you're not an expert in, I guess, TV deals or contract deals, entertainment type of deals, those sorts of things. That's what I'm wondering. Are you an expert in that?
No.
Okay. Okay, I have no further questions for this witness.
Any redirect?
Sorry, I said nor do I was on mute, but
Okay, guys, so that's pretty much the end of that. Now let me kind of break it down for y'all. So Simon testified, this expert witness that they called, what this guy did is pretty much talked about prenups, talked about, how valid prenups are. He was asked, what did he think about this prenup? So the bottom line is, and like I had said before, and I think somebody thought that, I had suddenly has start loving Porsha. Absolutely not. Porsha still is a ho ho ho. Now, that's still true. But the fact of the matter is, they sat down and they made this agreement. He signed it. So if you really look at it, I mean, like a normal person, Simon is way older than Porsha. He signed to give her these things. So this is what he agreed to. Now, wait a minute. The issue was not that he did not want to give her these things, because he agreed to give it to her. She didn't steal it. She didn't put his name on the dotted line. He signed this. His issue with Porsha was, she started to working, she went and was filming in the house, so she did things that was against it. I mean, he could have been still mad because she divorced him, but he really was, because there was things in there that she wasn't supposed to do that she did. Example, talking about him, things like that. But do y'all know what? The judge did not care about the things that she did that was outside of the prenup. The judge didn't care about that, which was crazy, because I'm like, if the judge, and I said this before, if the judge is going to enforce the prenup, I mean, I get it, enforce it. But in the prenup, and I said this before, it said that Porsha could not film in the home. And that's what I was saying. I was like, the judge is acting weird, because how does he enforce the prenup, but then say, well, I'm not going to enforce that? That's really not enforcing the prenup. And that is what Simon's lawyer said. Simon's lawyer said, if you're going to enforce the prenup, then we would ask you to stop the filming in the home, because the prenup is very specific as it relates to filming. It said that she cannot film him, his family, his house, anything about him without his permission. That's what it says in there. And I know, some of y'all says, when you're a housewife, you have to film your home. Well, yeah, but if you sign an agreement that you won't do that and you do it, then how are you honoring the prenup? So I think that is what the issue is with Simon. I mean, because y'all, let's think about it. I don't think he's dumb. I don't think he's stupid. Why did he agree to give her all of that stuff? Maybe because he got 360 something million, like he said. So maybe that wasn't nothing to him. Or maybe, just maybe, he thought that, their relationship was going to last longer. But even thinking that you thought that y'all was going to be together for long, maybe you should have put provisions in there to say after 5 years or after 6 years. None of that was in there. So at the end, I mean, if you really think about it, he signed it. The judge did not see it his way in terms of saying that he's going to enforce all of it, because the judge was like, I'm enforcing it, but yeah, she can film in the house. So that's just kind of like something that he lost, with regards to, Porsha speaking about him or whatever. The judge felt like, look, you was talking about her, she was talking about you. The judge, like I said before, had been on their social media. The judge had even been on Porsha's YouTube channel. So the judge, and this is why I want to play all the videos so y'all can see. Was I the only one feeling like the judge was irritated? The judge was irritated at 9:30. And this is why I said that the judge seemed like he only allowed this hearing to go forth because he wanted to seem fair. But I felt like by noon, I had made up my mind that I think the judge is going to go with the prenup. And let me just tell you why. He just seemed over it. He kept cutting him off, saying, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear. I mean, it was just crazy. And I just was like, well, if the judge doesn't want to hear the information, how are they're going to establish this? Also, this is another thing because I gotta be fair. Simon said that he could not afford to pay Porsha what he agreed to. So tell me this. If you cannot, if you can let's say you are trying to make a claim that you cannot afford to pay something out. Okay. So let's say a regular person like me, let's say I got a job and I ain't working there. Okay. So I'll apply for unemployment and I'm going to take you by letter to say I ain't working. I get unemployment, right? That's how we're going to prove it. Simon did not provide any documentation that showed that his income had changed. Does this make sense? So the court is like, wait a minute. Where's the documentation? I get Simon said that he didn't have access to his phone. But think about it. You got to show the court something. And that's what they said. You ain't bring no documentation to prove it. And, Simon's attorney was like, well, Porsha didn't bring anything. But keep in mind, Simon is trying to get out of the agreement. So it would seem that he would bring something. He didn't provide anything. So that was the issue with all of this because we really don't have anything to prove. And you know what the judge said? Okay, you are worth 360. I don't remember if it was 61, whatever it was. And just so we are clear with that, the numbers that they received were the numbers that were provided on the prenup in which Simon said how much he made. So Portia's attorney was like, well, if your income changed, why didn't you update? So they were saying, you didn't update it. So even the judge said, well, you're worth 360 some million. Okay, I understand you were in ICE custody, but I'm sure you didn't lose all of it. So the judge is like, whatever. And then listen to this, y'all. The judge is a regular person that worked. How much y'all think a judge make? Okay, like 260, probably not even that. So do you think he give a care about somebody that say they got 360 some million? Absolutely not. He don't care about that. So I feel like the judge was like, look, you signed the prenup. We going with the prenup. And the judge just felt uninterested in making any modifications where it came to Porsha not filming in the home because the judge was like, well, hey, this her job. So the judge didn't care. He just didn't. What y'all saying in the chat? I think she did have a job. She didn't have a. So here's the deal though, Dar. There is stipulations in there. The prenup, remember I said y'all it was 200 and some pages. It was a lot of information. So there was a lot of provisions in there that said, the income may be this, but the judge didn't want to hear it. That's what I'm saying. So yes, I feel like Simon had a case, but the judge wasn't open to it. The judge was not open to it. He wasn't open to looking at the because in some part the judge was like, what? Well, where does this say that at? So I just feel like the judge was over it. I also feel like Simon being deported definitely played a part in it because the judge was kind of like over it. I don't know. So, will Simon pay? We got to see. I don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Who knows? But the next video I'm gonna put up, y'all, I believe is Porsha's testimony, and I believe Simon testifies again. So, like I said, I'm just going to put up all the testimony so y'all can kind of hear it yourselves. And that's pretty much it. What else y'all saying here in the chat? Look, let me put this one on the screen because I don't know what he was. That was just, the way that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, crazy something. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. Like, I just feel like he wanted to give it to her because I don't think that he's dumb. I mean, and I understand, there's a lot of stuff that's saying she did this, but you just it would seem like a man with his background, I mean, given his age, the older you get, the more wiser you become. I would have thought he would have known better. So I feel like he just wanted to give it to her. But then I also feel like maybe some things happened that he changed his mind. But then I'm thinking, at my age, you never give somebody something that you might want to take back. So I don't understand. I'm a little bit confused as to what is going on. But I feel like he definitely wanted to give it to her at some point. And then like I said, I don't feel like he's dumb. So I don't know. I just feel like whatever happened, it happened. And either he gonna pay. If he don't pay, there's nothing they can do because he's in a whole nother country. Yeah, so and I misquoted too because originally I said he put down 1 million. I found out it was 2.4 million in court. So he put down 2.4 million dollars on that house. Um yeah. Yes, ma'am. So, like I said, y'all, I'm going to end this because I got like 3 or 4 more videos, and I got to get them, uploaded, and then I have to listen to the video just to make sure, that there is no information on there that I can't release to y'all. Slow down on the showing the videos. Those likes should be more. Oh, I agree. Yeah, but I don't know why people do that. So hopefully y'all can like the video. I really appreciate it if y'all would like the video, but I'm gonna get on up out of here. Make sure y'all liking the video. Okay. Well, we will see y'all later.
There is nothing. You don't miss nothing, got the scoop on lock. Spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell.